So hello from Green-Mopeds in London. So today we're going to give you an overview of the Zeeho Ae8S Plus, which is a 12.5 kilowatt electric motorcycle. And as it's now over the sort of like 10 kilowatt barrier, which is all the others that we did up to this point were beneath that in terms of scooters at least, we're putting it next to the Segway E300SE, which is a 10 kilowatt bike. So sort of by definition, we're excluding the NIU Evo, even the Silence SL1 and SL1 Plus, and the Hallwin EK3. These are the only bikes that are now 10 kilowatts or greater, that we do at least. So what we're going to do is go around the bikes, give you some information about them, and hopefully that will help you make an informed decision. So let's get to it. So first a little bit about the Ae8 and Zeeho. So Zeeho, Chinese as you might expect, they are the electric division of cf-moto, and cf-moto are brought into the UK by KTM. So if you're having any concerns about the sort of backup of this product, then you shouldn't be too concerned, because KTM, as I'm sure you know, are pretty big. They have quite extensive dealer net support, which is what we've obviously been through to sign up with them. Good warranty process, good parts process, etc., etc. So that's the first thing. Zeeho itself have many more models than are actually being brought in. They have an off-road sort of a bit like a Talaria X3 offering. Then they have the AE6, which is a lower spec single or double battery version. The design not as radical, no wings, for example, and hub driven. And then you have this one, which is their flagship bike. And for a few reasons, we put it next to the Segway E300, which is their flagship bike. Obviously both out of China, although the Segway's probably got a US veneer on top of it. So starting at the front, as you can see, it is the design that makes this thing stand out. And when we go through more of the specs, you'll see that it's also power. Anyway, at the front, the first thing to notice is that they are 12-inch wheels. So some people are concerned about the smaller wheels because of stability and potholes and all that sort of thing. So what both of these companies have done is they've added in ABS. Okay, so you can see that from the perforation on the disc there. What Zeeho have also done is to actually supply it with Brembo brakes. So Brembos are the sort of like industry standard for high quality braking systems. So that should alleviate some of your concerns too. Although Segway don't have Brembo, they do have traction control. So traction control can get you out all sorts of sticky situations. On this bike it is actually configurable. You can turn it on or off if you choose. Okay. One thing to notice, or one thing I've noticed by going around this bike, is look at the front mudguard. So on the Segway it's fairly standard. You know, you've got your normal mudguard, you can see the caliper. On the Ae8 you can see the mudguard goes pretty low to the ground. I wonder whether that might ever get clipped when people are sort of cornering. But anyway. So looking at the front, the design is obviously fairly radical. These wings are becoming more and more prevalent on bikes these days. If you go around ECMA, you'll see that they are appearing on more and more bikes. So it's a pretty cool design, I think you'd agree. Lots of lights, Segway a bit more plain. We have mentioned in the past about headlights that are fixed to the body and not on the handlebars, so they don't follow you when you turn a corner. But there's enough light on this to deal with that, I would say. Just as an aside, we might as well cover off colours now. The colours are interesting. On the AE6, there are 18 combinations, and the way they do it is based upon frame colour and then body colour and then accent colour. That's on the AE6. On the AE8, you've only got two choices, which is this silver with this silver, and then you've got the same silver but with black. Okay, there are no other colours. That's the alarm. Okay, so that's the choices of colours there. On the Segway, one choice only, which is all black. Okay, so going around a bit more of the bike. So they're both about 1.9 meters long, 2 meters long, that sort of thing. And one thing you might be able to tell from here is there's a lot of seat on the Ae8. that's neither here nor there, it's just that there is a lot of it. And the seating position, or the foot position, can either be flat or feet forward a little bit. You don't get that on the Segway. Okay, and it's fairly wide if you actually can compare the two. Okay, so doesn't make any difference really in terms of riding it, because the ultimate width is done by the mirrors and handlebars, but it's just to let you know you have got quite a lot of feet room. Down here, this is your charging port. Okay, and this is coolant. There aren't many bikes that have coolant in electric, but one of the reasons for that is that this is not hub motor. As you can see, there is a belt. So that adds a little bit of maintenance overhead. Obviously the belt has got to be tensioned in the right way. It will ultimately have to be replaced, but it's still, that's the choice of design. Also, it does make a bit of noise, which some people will prefer. Okay, won't worry too much about that. I guess the main thing to talk about, well, at this end of the bike, is the motors itself and the power. So on the Segway, traditional we could call it, hub motor, and that is 10 kilowatts. On the Ae8, you have 12.5. So this is sort of why we're grouping these bikes together, rather than adding in an Evo, an EK3 or anything like that. The others, EK3, Evo, even the Silence, they are now lagging behind in terms of performance compared to these bikes. 12.5 kilowatts, 10 kilowatts. Silence has, the SO1 Plus has 9. The Evo from NIU has 6. The EK3 has 6. So there, as more and more bikes are coming out, more and more power is being given. So 12.5 kilowatts is about 14 horsepower, which in petrol times might not seem much, but in electric, it's plenty. And when we do the ride review, you'll hopefully see that. So just to go around the dash, one of the interesting differences, having looked at this bike, is that this dash and this bike, in terms of configuration and things that you can do with it, is actually done through this dash. Okay, on the Segway, the dash is very simple, and everything is done through the app. There is an app on the Zeeho bike, and a lot of the configuration that you can do through the bike itself can also be done through the app, but as you can see here, there's a whole load of stuff that you get through the actual menu system. Okay, you don't get any of that through the Segway. It's all done through the actual app. One other thing to note, navigation. So what you can do is you can link up with the Zeeho app, and you can get navigation replay through your phone onto the bike screen. Okay, so this is not like the Naxion where there's a navigation system built in. This is a replay of what navigation you've got on your phone. Some might argue that if you can see your phone on the handlebars, why do you need it on the screen as well? But it might be that you put it in your pocket. But anyway, it does have navigation built in. Okay, as we go around the dash, you'll see one of the things I have liked about this bike is actually the sort of feel of it. It feels like good quality. Okay, the grips are good. All the sort of switch gear is very good. I'm not saying that Segway is not, but you just feel the difference in the quality of the plastic, I would say. Okay, so on here you've got your ready mode, you've got hazard lights, you've got your modes. So there are four modes on this bike. There's the normal modes, which is Eco Drive and Sport, Eco Street and Sport. And then if you're doing 50 miles an hour or more, you can press the mode again and you get a boost mode. And that boost mode will give you, I think it's about 30 seconds of boost, and then you have to let it rest for 45 seconds, something like that. Okay, so that is possible. On the Segway, you sort of get that by default. If you look at our ride review, when you see the indicators around the edge of the dash, they change colour as to when you're riding the bike. So if it's green, you're doing regen. But if you are, really going for it, and you twist the throttle, it goes into boost mode and you get a purple line around the edge. Okay, so from that perspective, pretty similar. As I said, it will be interesting to compare the two. So 2.5 kilowatts, again, in electric terms, that's 3 horsepower more, which is the difference in power between these two bikes. So you would suspect that 3 horsepower will make a difference, but the top speed of these bikes is basically quoted as the same, 68. One of the reasons why it might not go faster or outperform the Segway is because it's belt. So they say that it's 93% efficient. In other words, the energy from the batteries, 93% of it actually gets to the wheel. It almost by definition should be a little bit more on the Segway. But with 3 horsepower difference, we will actually do a speed test and compare them. Okay, so other things to tell you, under the seat, so you can get under the seat through this little thing here. One of the big differences between the two, so this is a 69 volt system with 27 amp hour batteries, so that's about 1.8 kilowatt hours per battery, so 3.6 for 2, okay? Interestingly, what KTM, I guess, didn't do was bring in the 32 amp hour battery with this, which they could have done. Obviously, adding nearly 20% more capacity should give you 20% more range, but they chose the 27 amp hour batteries. So 69 volt, 27 amp hours, 3.6 kilowatts in total. That will take a helmet, just. Open face, fine. Full face, maybe, okay? On the Segway, you have the whole thing available to you, so possibly 2 open face helmets. And the reason for that is that the batteries are underneath the floor. So there you go. So these are 74 volt. So 74 volt versus 69 volt should mean that the E300 outperforms the Ae8, other than the Ae8 has 3 horsepower more. So this is why I'm saying it's going to be quite an interesting comparison. 74 volt versus 69, if everything else was equal, the 74 volt should win. But when you've got 3 horsepower more, but when you've got a belt-driven system with it, I think it's going to be pretty close. The other thing to say about those batteries of the Segway is that they are 2 kilowatt hours in total. So 2 kilowatt hours per battery, 1.8 kilowatt hour per battery, less power requirements, more power requirements. So you would suspect that the Segway will win out on range. The quoted range on this bike, the Ae8, is 60. So if you knock off the 20% that we normally do, you're talking about high 40s, 50. We often say this is about 50 plus on this one. But of course, another big difference on this bike is that this can be wired for a 3rd battery. And we have supplied a customer with a 3 battery version of this bike. The wire is already there, it's just behind this panel. And then you get the 3rd battery with a tray that goes over the top. So you still get a bit of storage after that. Okay, so that is something else to think about. If you want more range out of these two, it would be the Segway. Okay, so other things to talk about. At the back here, just in case you didn't notice, adjustable suspension. Okay, so you just put a screwdriver or an Allen key onto that, you adjust it, you either turn it anti-clockwise to make it softer or clockwise to make it harder. Adjustable on the Segway too, so not a lot of difference there. Okay, there are racks available for both of these bikes, and obviously they are 2-seater. Okay, as you can see here as well, 2-seater. I like the Ae8 seat actually. I prefer seats that are flatter rather than ones with ridges, especially if you are taller or you're taking a passenger. This forces you to sit where it's telling you to sit, which is basically there. Although there is a bit of a ridge on this bike, it's not really something that will properly hold you up, and there's certainly more seat available for the passenger. Okay, so that's that. So I guess the main other thing to talk about is we talked about performance, we talked about power, charging time. So again, the charging times of these will depend upon the charger. You get a charger with this bike. It's nicely put in a nice case and everything like that, and it's supposed to be about 5 or 6 hours, sort of as usual, which is what they all are basically these days. So those are about the same as well. Okay, so we talked about colour as well. One other thing to notice about this bike is that this one is not currently on the grant. They are talking about it, although the suspicion is that the grant is going to go away anyway next year, 2025. But for now, the AE8 is not. I think they are applying for it and seeing how they're going to get on. So that then comes on to price. The price of the Segway with 2 batteries is £4,000. Okay, so 10 kilowatts, 68 miles an hour, £4,000, let's say 50 plus mile range, with the option of, for another 850, having the 3rd battery. On the AE8, it is 4,700 with the 2 batteries not on the grant. So the grant by default will give you a 2-year warranty on the bike and a 3-year warranty on the batteries. Until that happens with KTM, you're not going to get a 3-year warranty on the battery, as far as I know. I might have to correct that, but as far as I know, you don't. Okay, so 2 colours available, 4,700. The road test would be very interesting, I think. And if you have any questions about it, then please feel free to contact us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can follow any new reviews that we do. And thanks very much.